Hello again, everyone. Welcome back. I'm back in my secret hiding place at home. It is fall break, and you guys, I am such a dum-dum. I left my copy of Chaos in my desk at work, and it's fall break, so I can't get into my office. So I'm going to be reading off of the, I'm not sure if y'all have noticed, but in the show notes, there is a link to where you can read Chaos basically for free. It's on, let's see, archive.org. But I'm going to be reading from there and off my laptop next to me. So I don't know how this is going to go. We're going to wing it. Like I said, it's fall break. It's almost the 1-year anniversary of this channel really starting. It's October 10th. I had this goal to, finish this book by that anniversary. I think today's the 6th or 7th. I don't know. I don't even know what day it is. I don't know which end is up because I've been off for the last week with my kids, and I will be this week as well. Did y'all have fall break when you were kids? I did not exist, but it's like it made this, we have it here in Arizona now. It's like the summer is a little shorter, but now there's a fall break. Sorry, you're probably gonna hear my rooster many times. He demands to be heard. And we kind of live off a dirt road, and if you can hear, they are, we got some rain, so there's a bunch of stuff growing on the sides of the road, so they take this tractor down the sides of the roads every once in a while. Anyways, you're gonna probably hear that tractor in the background is what I'm getting at. And my stupid rooster. Anyways, we're in Chaos. It's chapter 11. Just dropped my daughter off at cross-country practice, so I don't have tons of time, but I do have a little bit of time, so we are gonna do this. I'm gonna see how it goes. Sorry guys, it's not the perfect situation, but that's okay. All right, so we're still in chapter 11. The next section is called The Curious Case of Jimmy Shaver. After midnight on July 4th, 1954, a 3-year-old girl named Sherry Jo Horton disappeared outside the Lackland Air Force Base where Jolly West was stationed. Horton's parents had left her in the parking lot outside a bar. I mean, not to victim blame, but that probably was not the best plan either, but there's nothing that excuses what happens to her. She played with her brother while they had a drink inside. When they noticed her missing, they formed a search party. Can you imagine taking your kid to a bar and just leaving them in the car while you went in to drink? I don't understand the mentality. Within an hour of Horton's disappearance, the party came upon a car with her underwear hanging from the door. This is a 3-year-old girl, you guys. They heard shouting nearby. 2 construction workers had been napping in a nearby gravel pit. Okay, when was this? Okay, the 1950s. It was a different time. 1954. So year my mom was born. Construction workers just slept in gravel pits? What is happening? I shouldn't be laughing because this isn't going to be funny, but kids sleeping in cars while their parents are in the bar. Construction workers napping in gravel pits. What? Okay, they were napping in a nearby gravel pit when a Lackland airman wandered out of the darkness. He was shirtless, covered in blood and scratches. Making no attempt to escape, he let the search party walk him to the edge of the highway. Bystanders described him as dazed and trance-like. "What's going on here?" he asked. He didn't seem drunk, but he couldn't say where he was, how he'd gotten there, or whose blood was all over him. Meanwhile, the search party found Horton's body in the gravel pit. Her neck was broken, her legs had been torn open, and she'd been assaulted. Deputies arrested the man. His name was Jimmy Shaver. At 29, he was recently remarried with 2 children, no criminal record, no history of violence. He'd been in the same bar Horton had been abducted from, but he left with a friend who told police that neither of them was drunk. Shaver seemed high on something. Before deputies could take Shaver to the county jail, a constable from another precinct arrived with orders from military police to assume custody of him. Around 4 that morning, an Air Force marshal questioned Shaver, and 2 doctors examined him, agreeing he wasn't drunk. One later testified that he was not normal. He was very composed outside, which I did not expect him to be under these circumstances. He was released to the county jail and booked for rape and murder. Investigators interrogated Shaver through the morning. When his wife came to visit, he didn't recognize her. He gave his first statement at 10:30 a.m., adamant that another man was responsible. He could summon an image of a stranger with blonde hair and tattoos. After the Air Force Marshal returned to the jailhouse, however, Shaver signed a second statement taking full responsibility. Though he still didn't remember anything, he reasoned that he must have done it. Kind of reminds me of Sirhan. 2 months later, in September, Shaver's memories still hadn't returned. The base hospital commander told Jolly West to perform an evaluation. So, our good friend Jolly West is getting involved again. Incidentally, I think I'm going to do an episode, a little rabbit trail about Jolly West, because in my research, I have found some crazy stuff, and I don't want to spoil it. It's just an article I'll read you guys, and some of it is the stuff that we're reading about in this book, so that won't be new, but there's some stuff that I think will shock you. Maybe, if anything shocks you anymore. Nothing shocks me anymore. All right. Was he legally sane at the time of the murder? Shaver spent the next 2 weeks under West's supervision, subject to copious psychological tests, and maybe some pharmaceuticals, or are they considered pharmaceuticals? Substances, how about that? They returned to the scene of the crime, trying to jog his memory. Later, West hypnotized Shaver and gave him an injection of sodium bentothal, truth serum, to see if he could clear his amnesia. It's horrifying when you think of the other stuff they did. Like, oh yeah, just give me some of this medicine and manipulate my mind. It is not good, my friends. While Shaver was under, with West injecting more truth serum to deepen the trance, Shaver recalled the events of that night. He confessed to killing Horton. She'd brought out repressed memories of his cousin, Beth Rainboat, who'd sexually abused him as a child. Shaver had started drinking at home that night when he had visions of God, who whispered into his ear to seek out and kill the evil girl, Beth. This Beth was never sought for questioning. At the trial, West argued that Shaver's truth serum confession was more valid than any other. Why would it be more valid than any other? And West was testifying for the defense. They'd hoped he could get an acquittal on temporary insanity. Instead, West's testimony helped the prosecution. Yeah. Here was a psychiatric expert who believed wholeheartedly that Shaver had committed the crime and who'd gotten him to admit it in colorful detail. While West maintained that the airman had suffered a bout of temporary insanity, he also said that Shaver was quite sane now. In the courtroom, he didn't look that way. One newspaper account said that he sat through the strenuous sessions like a man in a trance, saying nothing, never rising to stretch or smoke, though he was a known chain smoker. Some believe it's an act, the paper said. Others believe his demeanor is real. Who knows what's normal after you've been subjected to these crazy experiments? It's not good. West often treated Lackland airmen for neurological disorders. During the trial, it came out that Shaver had suffered from migraines so debilitating that he'd dunk his head in a bucket of ice water when he felt one coming on. He sought regular treatment, and the Air Force had recommended him for a 2-year experimental program. Okay. You know, Ted Kaczynski, I brought him up over and over. He volunteered to be part of some neurological testing or whatever, psychological stuff at Harvard, and went on to become the Unabomber. So I think, and the more we learn about Jolly West, it's like, okay, what other things were they testing? What other experimentation while they had someone basically under their control? Probably voluntary too. If the guy thought that his migraines were going to be cured. I don't know if y'all get migraines. I do from time to time. And if you have them all the time, you're probably willing to do maybe not anything, but willing to do a lot to figure out how to get rid of that, you know? And who knows? Oh my gosh, you guys, the rabbit trails. I was just reading, I don't even know if it was CIA, it probably was, but I just started watching this video about experiments, again, Cold War era experiments that the government did to, so diabolical, demonic, I say, demonic, about, sorry, I'm on a tangent, but you guys will find this horrifying too, that they put, like, they gave little kids radioactive oatmeal at that time to see, just to basically see, you know, nuclear, you know, it was the Cold War, Russia, nuclear weapons, blah, blah, blah. But yeah, they would give pregnant women radioactive milk, I think it was, to see what the effects were on their babies. Like, they would spray these, and it was like poor areas, housing projects, and these little kids, and of course it had some sunshiny name. I'll look it up and put it here if I can find it. But basically, they gave these kids, you know, poor kids, free breakfast, basically, oatmeal and milk, and took them to a baseball game, things that, you know, sounded fun and nice. And all the while they're feeding these kids radioactive food and drink just to see what would happen to them. This is our government, you guys, the United States government. I need like a whole playlist of just crazy stuff our government did in the 60s. I could make a whole channel on it. I won't, but it's insane what was allowed to happen. It boggles the mind, y'all. Okay, onward. He sought regular treatment, and the Air Force recommended him for a 2-year experimental program. The doctor who'd attempted to recruit him was never named. I wonder who it was. I'm not saying it was Jolly West, but, you know, connecting dots is something I enjoy doing, so I won't say that it was him because I don't have proof, but, you know, I don't know. Shaver's medical history was scrutinized at trial, but little mention was made of the base hospital, Wilford Hall, where West had conducted his MK-Ultra experiments on unwitting patients. On the stand, West said he'd never gotten around to seeing whether Shaver had been treated there. So you're going and doing all these things, you're walking him around the crime scene, and you just never got around to seeing if he'd been treated there. I do not buy it for 1 second. I checked. Lackland officials told me there was no record of him in their master index of patients. But curiously, all the records for patients in 1954 have been maintained, with one exception. The file for last names beginning with SA through ST had vanished. A whole lot of stuff vanished from that time period, and I'm pretty sure it was by design. Articles and court testimony described Shaver's mental state just as West had described in his experiments the previous summer. Amnesias and trance states, a man violating his moral code with no memory of doing so, and West had written that he planned to experiment on Lackland airmen for projects that must eventually be put to test in practical trials in the field. What do you all make of that? This was all the more difficult to ignore after I got the transcript of Shaver's truth serum interview. West had used leading questions to walk the entranced Shaver through the crime. "Tell me about when you took your clothes off, Jimmy," he said, and trying to prove that Shaver had repressed memories. "Jimmy, do you remember when something like this happened before? Or after you took her clothes off, what did you do?" "I never did take her clothes off," Shaver said. The interview was divided into thirds. The middle third, for some reason, wasn't recorded. When the record picked up, the transcript said, "Shaver is crying. He's been confronted with all the facts repeatedly." West asked, now you remember it all, don't you, Jimmy?" "Yes, sir," Shaver replied. For West, this seems to have been business as usual, but it left an indelible mark on the psychiatrists who work with him. One of them, Gilbert Rose, was so baffled by the Shaver case that he went on to write a play about it. I wonder what the play's called, if we could find it. When I reached Rose by phone in 2002, he said Shaver still haunted him. So not only is West destroying lives with the people he's experimenting on, but it's also, I mean, he never stopped thinking about this case, this coworker of his, and it haunted him this is 2002, 50 some years, almost 50 years later. Just destroying lives. I mean, dude is a psychopath in my non-qualified to diagnose such things opinion. But how can you just do things like this with absolutely no conscience whatsoever? It's diabolical. My 50 years in the profession, he said of the Truth Serum interview, that was the most dramatic moment ever, when he clapped his hands to his face and remembered killing the girl. But Rose was shocked when I told him that West had hypnotized Shaver in addition to giving him sodium pentothal. After I read Rose's citations from articles, reports, and the transcript, he seemed to accept it, but he was adamant that West had never said anything. Hypnotism was not part of the protocol. He'd also never known how West had found out about the case right away. Yeah, how did he find out about it? He just wandered into this investigation to help? We were involved from the first day, Rose recalled. Jolly phoned me the morning of the murder, Rose said, giving me flashbacks to Sharak Hatami's memory of Reeve Whitson. He initiated it. So Sharak Hatami was the photographer of Sharon Tate, if you recall, way back. West may have shielded himself from scrutiny, but he made only a minimal effort to exonerate Shaver. How convenient. He covers his own butt, but not the guy who he manipulated. And maybe he didn't mean for him to go do something like this, but you could argue that he caused him to do something like this if he did it. I mean, you know what the purpose of these experiments were: to get people to do things and forget, to abandon their moral code. I mean, again, words, yeah, there aren't enough words to describe the evil here. The airman was found guilty, though an appeals court ruled that he had had an unfair trial. He was convicted again in the retrial. So yeah, he had to go through it all again. In 1958, on his 33rd birthday, he was executed by the electric chair. He maintained his innocence the whole time. Again, reminds me of Sirhan. West claimed he was in the courtroom the day Shaver was sentenced to death. Around this time, he became vehemently against capital punishment. I couldn't help but wonder if it was because he knew his experiments might have led to the execution of an innocent man and the death of a child. Probably, if he does have a shred of conscience. What if his correspondence with Gottlieb, predating the crime by just a year, had been presented at trial? Would the outcome have been the same? Yeah, so that correspondence was basically saying that, you know, they'd found the holy grail of mind control stuff. Of course, that wasn't going to find its way into the courtroom. Come on. All right, the next section is called Tusco Goes Down. I think I mentioned this early on. It's in that article I'm going to read you guys too. Okay, if the Shaver incident was the most harrowing chapter of West's career, the most surreal belonged to Tusco, an elephant. Of all West's experiments, this one netted the most press, much of it scathing, but the public didn't know that the CIA's Sidney Gottlieb had funded it. That guy was evil too. Evil. On August 2nd, 1962, West headed to Oklahoma City's Lincoln Park Zoo, where he'd invited a crowd of eager onlookers to watch his latest test. To their delight, he'd secured an Asian elephant named Tusco, an exotic specimen in Oklahoma. West would attempt, he explained, to induce moose. I had to look this up. It's a form of okay, I'm just going to put up the definition here. It's weird. I don't even know if I'm saying it right. Moose. A form of madness that occurred in male elephants during the rutting season. Moose cause violent behavioral changes. Normally cooperative and tameable, the elephant now runs berserk for a period of about 2 weeks, during which time he may attack or destroy anything in his path. West explained, claiming that whole villages had been wiped out by a single moose-thing animal. In his rage, the elephant secreted a mysterious fluid, brown and sticky, from his temporal gland. Could it prove medically useful? So they're experimenting on this elephant, and I'm sure they obtained some of this sticky fluid to see if it's useful. They probably injected it in people too. Who knows? He intended to find out. His method was simple. He would simulate moose by injecting the elephant with a lot of LSD. Man, he loved that LSD, didn't he? But West had miscalculated the dosage. Tusko weighed a whopping 7,000 pounds. West shot him with 2,800 milligrams of acid, about 1,400 times the quantity given to a human, to produce a marked mental disturbance, by West's measurement. 5 minutes after the injection, West later wrote, Tusko trumpeted, collapsed, fell heavily onto his right side, defecated, and went into status epilepticus, a respiratory seizure resulting in death. And they had all these observers. They were probably horrified. Can you imagine watching this horrific scene? The next morning's paper featured a front page photo of the portly psychiatrist bent over the deceased pachyderm. There were no animal rights groups then. I was going to say, there was no PETA then. Say what you want about them, but can you imagine if PETA had been around for this? They would have lost it. They lose it about everything, but this is bad. There were no animal rights groups then. Tusko's death was received more as comedy than tragedy. Comedy? Oh my gosh. For a time, West became the laughingstock of the scientific community, and he was soon making fun of the mishap himself. He liked to inform his lecture audiences that he was the doctor famous for killing an elephant with LSD. When I asked Roger Smith about West, he exclaimed, he's the guy that killed the elephant. Great story, wonderful story. He always told it. The mystery behind the joke was why LSD had been used on an elephant in the first place. Yeah, who is even thinking to do this? What good did it do to simulate moose? Other than if you want to get that brown sticky substance, I don't know. West, true to form, never gave the same explanation twice. Speaking to an interviewer from the Medical Tribune and another from the Daily Oklahoman, West said his objective was to find an animal model for recurring psychosis in humans. Now, they do a lot of experimentation on like rats and stuff, and people always say, well, it's a rat, it's not a human, it's not even close to a human. Well, I mean, an elephant is nothing close to a human either. So I don't know what you're gonna gain from torturing this. But again, they always frame it as something they're doing for the greater good of humanity, which is never actually what's happening. So yeah, animal model for recurring psychoses in humans. Elephant brains were useful analogs for the human mind. I don't know. They had excellent memories, creative judgment, sophisticated problem-solving abilities, and even an individual personality. Looking at elephant violence offered an opportunity to learn what changes are correlated with this gross behavior, and to see if those changes happened in people too. That seems like a stretch to me, but what do I know? I'm not a scientist. And yet, in a December 1962 article for the journal Science, West and his co-researcher acted as if their ambitions were purely zoological. They surgically removed an elephant's glands before puberty. He might grow up to be a sexually capable but behaviorally tractable animal. The recommendations were so preposterous that they occasioned an avalanche of letters to Science. Outraged scientists questioned West's true objectives, labeling him capricious and irresponsible. I failed to see any scientific merit, one wrote, or purpose. West left his position at the University of Oklahoma in January 1969. His successor, Dr. Gordon Deckert, found records in the department's files about the Tusko debacle. When the elephant died, the department was worried. How in the world are we going to pay for that? It's probably pretty expensive. Deckard recalled all Jolly would say to anybody was that he would find a way to pay for it. Who do you think paid for it? 3-letter agency, I suspect. Let's see. I learned then when I became chair that the source was payment from the CIA. Are we surprised? I'm not. Having known about West's involvement in the so-called brainwashing issue of the Korean War, Deckard conceded that he wasn't terribly surprised. The financial cover was the Foundation's Fund for Research in Psychiatry, Inc., the same group that paid for West's Haight Ashbury project. Okay, that's the end of that. It's a little bit of a short one, guys, but I will probably be able to do this again tomorrow. And I'm probably not going to get the whole book done before the 10th, which was my goal, but I'm trying to be realistic here. My goal is 1,000 subscribers too, but I think I'm at like 906 or something, which is amazing, and I'm so grateful for that. What do you think of this guy, though? I mean, something weird too. I was going to say, I haven't had too many comments about how psychotic this dude is, but something weird's been happening. Like, I can see, like, I was on my kids' YouTube channel, or their channel, and watching or looking at one of the videos I made, and I can see comments under, like 4 comments on the last video I made. But in the YouTube Studio, which is where you check your analytics and all that stuff, it says I have 4 comments, but when I click on it, only 1 shows up. So I got to figure out what's going on with that. But anyways, if you all don't mind commenting what you think about this guy, this evil human. I mean, no remorse, no remorse for the animal. It's comedy that they tortured this poor elephant, and apparently a little girl had a pretty rough, you gotta use code words on YouTube. Some pretty horrific things have happened, and you could argue that this mind control stuff caused much of it. Some of it by design, some of it not, or supposedly not. But I guess if it's all in the name of science and just, learning how to help the mentally ill. No, sorry. Gigantic eye roll from me. No, I'm sorry. I just don't buy it. It's like, there's no justification for any of this. But there's so much of it. So much beyond. I mean, we're talking about the Manson case and these other random things that happen in the same time frame. But I also, some of you expressed an interest in me doing a little side episode about the MK Ultra sub-projects. And some of them are really boring. I don't know if you guys would enjoy it. There was 145 of them, I believe. But some of them were so crazy. And then, like I said, I just stumbled onto that radioactive oatmeal thing this morning. And like I said, I don't know if it was the CIA that did it or they just said the government, which, I don't know. I assume it's the CIA because of all of this other stuff that we're learning about. But I don't know. I might look more into that too. Like I said, the next book I do is not going to be this heavy subject matter. It's going to be something funner and lighter. Anyways, I got to go pick up my daughter from cross country. It's just a 1-hour practice down at the park. So I drop her off, come back, have a few minutes, and then have to head back. But I should be able to do that tomorrow as well. So my goal is to still get as much out of this, out to you guys as I can before the 10th. Kind of weird. I've been so lagging in this one. Like I said, 3 books in a year is not too impressive, but as you can see by my surroundings, it's not always easy to find a spot. I don't have a dedicated, desk with the microphone and sound deadening and all that fancy stuff. I'm still winging it, guys, as you can clearly tell. And I'm rambling. Anyways, I've missed you guys. Like I said, I'm such a dum-dum for leaving my book in my desk at work. But we're making it work. And I should have thought of this last week, but I didn't, because I'm at home with 4 rowdy children that are bored, and it's not that easy. Anyways, I love you all. Have a great day. I will see you in the next one. All right, take care. Bye.